Now we are properly recording
Shonk. He remembered.
for once. So, all right. In today's session, I wanted to show two things. One is another new feature that I didn't get to cover last time. So last time I shared some stuff about lights and the new swap materials feature. Those are two pretty awesome features that like we'd never had before. And even though I forgot to hit the record button last time, I did record a quick video and I shared it on the Discord channels, so you can at least see that, which kind of summarizes like most of what I said about those features. This time I want to talk about another feature that also came out with that same release, but that was a bit more low key, which was the ability to display only certain wearables from an NFT. So you can display an avatar with the NPC, so sorry, with the avatar shape component. With that component, you can now also decide to, instead of displaying the whole of the avatar, display only certain wearables that you want, and that can be pretty interesting if, in case you want to like do some wearable giveaways or a wearable store. In a past session, Dr. Quilo showed how to set up a whole like dispenser to give away wearables. But one thing that was still a bit of an awkward step in that process was that if you wanted to show in world what the wearable that you're giving away was, you still had to upload a 3D model of that wearable into the scene, which was quite a hurdle. And also, since the wearable is not being rendered with the whole avatar shader, which is different from everything else in the scene, because avatars have this more like cartoonish shader with a border around it. Like the wearable is never going to look the same as the proper wearable when it's being used by a player. So with this new setup, it is possible to show the actual wearable on its own and rendered just like a real proper wearable inside the Decentraland. And the other thing I wanted to show, in case we have time, I want to also leave space for all of you to raise any topics you want to discuss too. But the other thing is controlling a scene through a spreadsheet. This is something that is not new really. Our content team has done it a bunch of times, but I think it's a really cool thing that I think is not done enough, and it's not all that hard. I mean, there's some code that you can basically borrow from the example that I'm going to show you, and most of it is pretty straightforward after that. And thanks to that, you can, for example, update the contents of a scene in a much friendlier, quicker way without needing to redeploy, and you can even like delegate that to someone who's not the creator or owner of a scene. You can just share a link to a spreadsheet and they can just put values and columns and be done with it. You could even like do a whole schedule where there's different dates and times, and you can just fill that in. And if the scene is reading the schedule and checking the current time and seeing when each thing starts, it can already be set up to react accordingly to these things. And if you need to correct anything on the go, it's just as easy as changing the contents of a spreadsheet, which is a pretty easy thing. So before that, let's get started with wearables. So I was messing around with this little scene I built. I built this like today in like half an hour. I basically used some 3D models from Meshi, and it's supposed to be like the inside of like a booth in a recording studio. So it's like the screen is where you can see the actual performer playing, and it's supposed to mimic like you're like behind the scenes with the sound engineers and watching the performance like in this more intimate, smaller little venue. This makes more sense for the spreadsheet functionality. It doesn't make much sense for the wearable functionality, but let's just roll with it. So in my scene, I added this model here, which is like borrowed from something the content team have used before, and this is like a little bit of a pedestal to show a wearable on top of it. So what I'll do is I'll add some code to react to that. So this, no, sorry, this is not the right scene. No, I got it open. Yeah, I don't have it open. I have a ton of open windows, but not that one. This is it. Yeah, don't save. So this is my project for the scene that we're seeing here. And for now, all I have is this placeholder code for getting the spreadsheet data, but let's ignore that for now. For now, let's focus on the wearables stuff. So first, I want to fetch a reference to this object here, which is called dispenser. So let's do engine.get null by name and dispenser. Awesome. Yes. Dispenser. No. What is this? If the dispenser exists, now I want to create a new entity that is the wearable itself. Cursor is both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it tells you exactly what you want to do, sometimes it completely hallucinates. So always take what it suggests with a bit of a grain of salt. So I want to give this new entity a transform, and I don't want the position to be 0. I want to make it just slightly above that of the dispenser. I don't want to touch the rotational scale for now. And I want to make the parent the dispenser. Great. And the other thing I will do is give this an avatar shape. So the avatar shape needs to have a bunch of default fields. Let's look at the docs here and just borrow some code from here. This is like the minimum expression of the avatar shape. And with this, we should already start seeing something in our scene. Let's open the preview and check it out. By the way, yes, please interrupt me or let me know if there's anything that wasn't clear as I go. I do have a tendency to, think things are more obvious than they are. So,
I played around with the avatar shape and trying to change the wearables. Originally, there's only like a few clothes that you can actually wear. And in development console, it was even less, and it was quite hard to test new things like different clothes because there was only very limited range. So this is going to solve all that problem, isn't it?
Yes, now you can actually paste the URN of any wearable that is on sale in the marketplace. So, yeah, we'll play around with that in just a minute. But well, here's my default avatar. It has no clothes on, so it's just wearing the default boxer shorts. But one thing we can do is tell it what wearables to use.
Nico,
yes.
Did you say at the end there's going to be time to ask questions, right?
Yes. I want to show this topic first, then I want to open it to questions and discussion. And if there's
Amazing.
time, then I'll dive into the second topic.
Okay, because Prater in World has a question, but it's about streaming screens. It's not about this.
Okay.
So I guess you'll keep going, and then after this, we'll pause and y'all can chit chat.
Yes. Let's dive into
Amazing.
it. Cool. If we don't get to do the spreadsheet stuff, we'll leave it for next week. I was looking for, yes, here. Just gonna borrow this one example that is on the docs. Here we're fetching a wearable by its URN. Can't remember what the wearable on this example was, but let's find out. And here we go. Yes, it has a bit of a Hawaiian shirt on it. And this is not one of the default wearables that come with, with base avatars. This is something random from off the marketplace. And what's new in this case is that there is a new field which is, where is this? Show only wearables, which with this field now we're no longer displaying the entire avatar. Wait, why is this not being recognized? Sorry about this. Demos is player? No, this player doesn't exist. Is this? Am I using the latest version? Maybe I'm not using the latest version. That's a total possibility. Here I am. Odd. Yeah, if I didn't mess this up, this should be the right way to write it. Okay, oh, okay, now it worked. I have no idea why it didn't work before. But with that field on now, instead of seeing the entire the entire avatar, I'm just seeing the wearable. Notice that it's playing an emote because I'm telling it to do the robot emote. If I didn't pass any expression triggered value here, then it would be, actually would be doing the idle animation, which is not entirely still. If you look at it closely, there's a little bit of a breathing, subtle up and down. In this case, it doesn't bother me, but if you wanted to, you could instead also, create an animation which is absolutely still, or maybe still in a T-pose or whatever pose you want, and loop that animation. And with that, you could have the wearable stay still if that's what you need. And also, I feel like this wearable is a bit, it's a bit smaller than I would like. But one cool thing about avatar shape, which not so many people know, is that you can also change the scale of the avatar. So I can actually set the scale, in this case not to 0.5, let's set it to 3, for example. And with this, I can have a giant avatar if I want. So, oh, here it is. So it's a bit higher than expected. So of course, it's a good idea to add an offset to this. So instead of making it 1, maybe if I made this 0 or even -1, maybe even, with that, it would be more aligned to what I expect. There we go, that's better. Maybe it's a bit too big now, but you get the point. And how did I get this value here? You can get this from the marketplace. To be honest, this could be easier, this could be friendlier. Would be great if there was like a button somewhere in the marketplace to just copy a value. But let's, for example, take this Perl set. If you check the URL for the item, it has this series of numbers, which is really the contract number and the item number in that contract. So every wearable has the contract number, which is really a collection ID, and within that collection there's a number. Often, if there's just one wearable in the collection, it's going to be 0. If there's several items, each one will have a different number. So if in this case I want to have this item on display, I can just change this part of the URN. I'll leave 0 as before, and I believe this is from a Matic V2 collection. Most new wearables are. If it were an older, L1 wearable, then the URN would be different. Sadly, this is not immediate and easy to deduce from the URL, but most of the times it's good enough with that. I'm not seeing my wearable here, but perhaps it's just a matter of alignment. So let's raise it a bit. Well, there's a possibility that maybe the URN that I pasted here is not really accurate. Maybe the first portion of the URN is not quite matching this wearable in particular. Most wearables follow that pattern, but not all. Did I paste it correctly? Just in case? Yeah, it's well pasted. Okay, let's, for now, for the sake of making it easy, let's try something else. Let's go for the pitchfork, which is what I'd get if I forget to record one more time. And oh, there we go. Okay, great. This time, yes. And as you can see, like these things are floating in the position where they would be if there were to be like a huge and you know, fully laid out avatar. But if I wanted to, I could make this, for example, do a clap emote. Let's see how that looks with these wearables. So there we're clashing the pitchfork and the torch. By the way, whenever you do an expression ID here, one thing to keep in mind is that the emote doesn't loop, it just plays once. If you want it to loop, then you will have to use a system to make this you know, keep playing again and again. Yeah, this with let's see if cursor is up for the challenge. Let's do this. Let's say on the avatar shape component of the wearable entity. Let's be precise about this. Let's see what happens. Oh, really? Really? Just now? I was using this like an hour ago. And it looks like GPT-5 now is no longer free to use. Like, that's like impeccable timing, because up until an hour ago, I was just fine using it. Okay, let's go with Claude 4, which also tends to work pretty well. See. It's inventing a component that doesn't quite exist. But it's still thinking, it's still going over its initial designs. While this is still being worked out, I'm starting to read the thread on the scene. Okay. So this trigger remote function, no, this trigger remote function actually works on my avatar, not on the this entity that I created here. So that is almost a passable delivery, but not quite. Anyway, I don't want to dive too much into this, but the gist of this is that you would do something like this, but instead of playing trigger remote, you would have to do something that takes this avatar shape component and plays the there's a mode trigger timestamp, so it would be something with this number. So originally it starts with the 0, and to make it play again, I think you'd have to change it over. So if instead of doing this, which doesn't exactly make, let's keep it. Instead of doing that, which doesn't quite make sense, let's do avatar shape dot get mutable wearable, and I think it's not a literal timestamp. It's not a number, but rather what they call a Lamport timestamp, which is did this work? There. Oh, sorry. There. I think this should work. See? Okay, great. Yes, that did the trick. With this, the clap emote is looping infinitely. All right, so this is of course not the best demonstration of how you can use this. Let's just, for the sake of it, go with a prettier demonstration. Let's, for example, look for some shoes, some nice looking shoes, and sure, let's go with these ahead of Halloween. So in this case, if I, oh, doesn't my avatar look pretty with these? So I'm going to copy this section of a URL, which is the contract, and the ID is 0 in this case. So if I go back to my code, and instead of this, I'm going to paste this contract number here. And by the way, now, yes, I might be a bit offset from, yeah, I think I just have to raise it a little bit more. The shoes are probably below the ground, or below the base. The avatar is there because the clapping is happening. Let's raise it just 1 more meter. Let's shrink it a bit. Maybe that's not helping either. I mean, it wouldn't be the problem, but it just simplifies the adjustment of the position. Okay, weird. So yeah, I mean the avatar is there, but I'm sure the problem here is that this URN that I'm assuming for this avatar is not the actual URN that it has. So so this is, I'm sure, not an old school L1 wearable. So what if it's B1? Now I'm completely improvising, by the way. So I don't have much confidence in that this is gonna work. Nah. Well, yeah, I need to consult better what are the possible variations for the whole URN. Um, I I did some experiments with this format and it worked pretty consistently, but of course when you're doing demos for people, things tend to not go as smoothly. But when I was trying this by myself, every single variable by chance that I tried did, follow the same format and consistently worked. Which is to say, we probably need better documentation also to let you know about the possible URN formats that any wearable might have. So I'm gonna do some digging into that and add something into documentation for sure in the next few days. Anyway, so with that, let's move on to discussing basically anything that you people want to bring up. The mic is yours. By the way, I'm going to turn on the light because it's got kind of dark.
So Prater has asked two things. What the first of which is, let me scroll. I guess currently there's a screen bug. In his theater, he is having difficulty letting his users see and hear things, and that he's finding that people need to reload.
Okay. So this is when the streaming starts. Like, some people just don't get the stream starting at all.
I'm asking. Stream start. And then the second question is about templates in the Creator Hub, and if we plan on updating them. And I had said the latest published office hours talked about like uploading other models outside of templates, but I don't know if you have any updates on that. Oh, okay. So Prater answered and he said basically people can't see what he sees.
Okay. Definitely something we need to investigate. I know that there had been cases where like the format of the video had some weird issues with certain OS. So like with the Mac, I think it was that certain videos were not playing if they were in like a particular, codec format. I remember that there was something with that. To be honest, I can't remember exactly what it was or how to reproduce that. So if there's a pattern, if we can find out that it's specifically Mac users who have this problem, that could be quite an interesting data point to figure this out.
Cool. I have communicated the gist. I guess basically we'll follow up with Prater and see if we can find a pattern.
Yeah, that would really help. Because these are the kinds of bugs that can be really tough to pinpoint. Because whenever something works for some people but not for others, it can be quite a wild goose chase. Because then when you try to reproduce the bug, it works for you. So then what's the next step? About the other point, about more templates, definitely that is something that we have very much on our main things that we're discussing now. We are in the process of building a few templates. There's one that is being built already for an art gallery. We're discussing doing a few more templates for streaming venues, and there's a bunch more that we want to do. And in the meantime, also the content team, as they build stuff, I'm always chasing after them, asking them like, oh, that's a really nice scene. That thing you added to that scene, I want that as part of the catalog. They're always running with crazy schedules and crazy deadlines. So they rarely have the time to really sit down and build, assets for the Creator Hub, but they often build things that are definitely usable in that context. So I'm always chasing after them.
Nico, you're going to have to make a art store template now. I mean, a closed store template now, because it would allow people. This new feature would allow people to sell clothes like on display, like wearables on display.
So yes, the actual running of the transaction that's significantly more complex but doable. There is an example scene being built right now by a third party. Um, that that example scene though it uses mainnet transactions, which means that that also involves paying a transaction fee, which is not the ideal. We were just today doing some research about that, and turns out there's a feature that we need to add to the new Explorer in order to support meta transactions. Meta transactions let you run a transaction basically without paying for gas fee, which is a lot more practical for those cases. But
It also add. It'd be awesome if you add commission as well. Then
you mean by
just checking.
by like the scene creator? Yeah, that's a very interesting use case. Yeah.
If someone had a clothes store and they sold some clothes that's not theirs, then they could get a commission on that sale.
It's a
Otherwise, yeah,
well,
you could sell your clothes.
No, yeah, it's a really interesting use case. For that, I think that we would, I'm sure that we would need to mess with smart contracts. So that is never a quick thing to develop, because you have to be super, super, secure about everything about that, and have the contract, audited and everything. But it's something we could do. Yeah. And sorry, I'm not keeping up much with the chat, so I'm reading now.
We are discussing Aldi, the grocery chain. So it's not. There's not a lot. There are no further questions yet that I can see.
Okay. Thank you so much. It really helps to have someone spotting you. Like, I so appreciate that you're here, Dana. Like, especially when you're, trying to debug something that is not working at the same time as trying to keep up with a conversation. My mind never has enough bandwidth.
I wish we could react in Discord, because I'd give you the salute emoji. But I'm here to serve the people.
Super, super appreciate it. Right, I want to mention a couple of things. In the last, in the two sessions ago, we talked about priorities, and we said three things that were quite high up on our list of priorities. One was moderation. That we got a strong signal that people were really concerned about moderation, and we are taking it seriously. We are in fact so we know how we work with the whole shape up cycle. We're at a point in the shape up cycle where there's a whole lot of proposals on the table, and now we have to figure out in terms of timing and staffing and who's available and what of these things actually get done. So we'll know more in the future, but there's two proposals which are very highly, they're highly rated up in the priorities, which have to do directly with moderation. So yeah, I'm pretty confident then that at least one and probably both of these will be things that we'll be working on in the next cycle. Another thing that was mentioned was improving streaming. We have fixed one issue which had to do with streams being flipped in some cases, but well, apparently there are still things to fix. So yes, I take it that I agree absolutely that it's a priority to fix that, because streaming is a pretty central use case to many scenes in Decentraland. So we have to nail that right. And another thing that was mentioned was deleting files from Cloud Hub, from Creator Hub. So we do have a design for allowing creators to delete any unused files in their scene. we now have to actually develop that feature. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to cover that over the next few weeks or month. Well, if there aren't any other questions, or if anyone else wants to maybe show things that you've been working on, otherwise I can attempt to...
Alan dropped a Q, which is the NFT display. I guess, is there an issue? Are we currently tracking an issue for the NFT display smart item?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Okay, Alan, we can I guess follow up that in there too. I see Alan's typing.
So I know that up until not so long ago, we had issues with showing GIF NFTs specifically. And like we developed a whole intermediate server that turns the GIFs into videos, because GIFs don't render in our engine. And as far as I know, that's already there, and that's already working. And yeah, I'm not aware of other issues. That doesn't mean that maybe they're not being worked on, but at least I'm not in the loop.
I'm taking notes, Alan. Yeah, we can definitely chit chat.
Okay, yeah, and for this also, if you have examples of NFTs that you don't see working, that really helps.
So Nico, you said something about a spreadsheet.
Yes. So yes, that was the other thing I wanted to show today. Let's see if we have time for it. But if you want, I can dive into it and at least give you the gist. So in this case, I created this regular common, Google Sheets. An important thing is that this has to be public in order for the scene to be able to read from it. So anyone with a link. So by the way, it's relatively easy to read from a spreadsheet. It's not so easy to write to a spreadsheet. In fact, I tried with the Google API and couldn't figure it out. There's ways if you use if this and that or other services, but not directly hitting the Google API, sadly, or at least not with me or the content team. We couldn't figure it out, at least. So in my same scene that I was working on before, I added this bunch of code. I won't go through it line by line, but know that this repo is in a repo that I'm gonna share. Sorry, I already uploaded it, but I'll make updates to this in the next few days. But sorry, this here. This is the repo that I'm working with. Recording Studio. I'm going to share it here on the chat on Discord. Well, let's take a quick look at what this code is doing. So here I'm just pasting the URL for my spreadsheet, and I'm creating a JSON data object, and this function gets called by my scene. Here. So it gets called from main as soon as the scene loads. And what it's doing is it fetches from the URL, which is this here, and it passes the response to text. So it makes sure that this JSON response gets created into string, and then it does some magic with regular expressions to identify the different breaks within this one long string that we get, and it then iterates over each line of this object, and it does some magic with parsing stuff, and basically identifies where the information for a different table starts, because potentially you might have multiple tables in the same spreadsheet, and then it identifies what are the headers and what are the rows, and it creates a big object that contains all of this information in an object that is, easier to deal with. So instead of having one long string, which is what the API gives you, you get an object where you can, extract one particular set of information from this data. So with that, let's do this. So I'm fetching the data from the spreadsheet. This here is going to return an object that will have information from the spreadsheet. In this case, I am, since the scene that I'm building here is like a studio for showing live shows, I'm putting the name of the person playing. Let's say Alan, why not? And let's pretend that I have a video URL for a pre-recorded live show. Let's see, I have some random video URLs that could do the trick. Here, for example, I paste a URL here, and well, I'm not going to do the wearable thing because I wasn't getting any luck with displaying the wearables just now. But well, I could have several entries here. And in my scenes data, I can now, for example, do the following. So in my scene, I have this little sign up here, which I designated to put the name of the person who's currently playing. So let's start by fetching that. I call this banner text here. So let's fetch a reference to that. Get the name. Yes, but not quite. It's banner underscore text. And no, this is not correct SDK code. There you go, okay. And no, not value, it's text. So with this, let's do a quick test, and let's see if I'm actually changing the text in the scene. Great, yes, with this I'm changing the text in the scene. But what I want to do now, of course, is to actually change it using data from the spreadsheet. And by the way, let's do a test. So before I try to populate this data in the spreadsheet, let's see if I'm getting this data on the console log, which is being already printed out here as part of the process. So in my scene, if this is working properly, I should be seeing stuff here on the console log. No, but so I'm seeing stuff from a spreadsheet, but not from my spreadsheet, because I believe I still haven't pasted my I still haven't pasted the URL from my spreadsheet. So let's copy the link from here. And yeah, here I was using a different spreadsheet as a first example, because I knew that worked from before. But instead, let's paste the one that I just now. Let's delete this part about edit sharing. Let's try with this. So I'm opening my preview again. So what I want to see now is the console, and image that, I don't know, ignore that. too large. No, sorry, never mind. So the image thing is about something else I was trying. Ignore it. But no, I'm not seeing my data from my spreadsheet getting recognized, I think. So what am I doing? Time to dig deeper. So let's compare my URL here with the ones that I tried before. Overall, it seems to match the same structure, except that I'm adding this chunk here at the end. That's I can't recall if there was a purpose to this chunk here at the end, but let's try it out. This is something that I experimented with quite a bit before, quite a while back. Oh, well, this worked. Now I am seeing the stuff from my spreadsheet here. So, as you can see, there's a wearable URN, etc., etc. So what can I do with this now? I want to fetch what's in plain and put that in my sign up there. So now from data, this work? Let me check, because I'm a bit rusty with this. I managed to build something with this like a few months back, and I probably should have done a bit more tests with this, just to be. So I'm gonna open a project that I built before, and I'm gonna borrow from there. So this is in.
Nico, I have to hop to a meeting at 6, but I am nominating Toxic to monitor the chat in world. Oh man. Yeah, okay. She said she's ready. Perfect. And so she can help you from here.
Super appreciated. Thank you, Dana, for helping out, and thank you, Toxic, also for stepping up. I don't want to extend this
All right,
too
sweet.
much also, because yeah, this could go on for a while. I'm gonna then upload the the full example scene to the repo, so you'll probably be able to get more out of it there. But I want to at least do this one little use case here. So I'm gonna open the project.
That's awesome. It'd be really cool if you could write to it as well. That'd be super awesome.
Yeah. I spent a while trying to do that. There's ways, but that have. I felt like the complexity of that was maybe even more than just recording into a server, which is not trivial either. But like the whole point of using a spreadsheet was simplicity, right? It's just be able to easily edit.
Yeah, you don't need to host a database or anything like that. And I assume that you can load a lot of data. And there's a lot of use cases for it. Like, say, if you're renting something, and you could give permissions to the renter to modify values of a scene or something like that. You know.
Yeah. So. What was I doing here exactly? This get actions function, where does it come from? Am I using this somewhere? okay. I think I'm onto something. So, I'm actually not using the response of this function. I rather should be using this object that I save here. So instead, let's import. I actually don't need this then. And let's import it from here. Yes. And copying from my other scene, what I should do is
Nico, I see we have 2 questions from the user.
Let me know. Yeah.
We have Mahadi asking inward. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. I hope you can hear me good.
Yes. But
awesome. So we have Moheti.
Yeah, give me just 1 minute because I think I'm almost there.
Yes.
If this doesn't do it, then I'll go back. But I think this might do the trick. And if it does, I'll then explain what I just did. Probably it has to do with a sync, right? So that's yeah, because I probably had to wait for the response to come back from the spreadsheet before I get that. Okay, no, sorry. Let's come back to the questions. Yes, Ajit.
Absolutely no problem. I think Mahadi's question is not regarding to what you're doing right now, but he is asking, when will we be able to take stuff in our avatar hands? I mean, when will we have an easy process to do it? And the question is not related with what we see right now.
No, it's
also,
not. But
we have...
Wait, when you say take stuff in our avatar's hands, there is a way to attach an object to the avatar's hands or any part of the body. Maybe not everyone knows about this. So, where is this? Here, 70 positions. So there's this component that lets you attach something to any part of the, sorry, not this one here. Here we go, the avatar attach component. And there's several different anchor points, and among those you have the player's hands. And in fact, you can also use this via the Creator Hub without code. So there's a couple of actions that let you do that. So for example, let's see. Let's, for example, add this sword to the scene. And I can make it a smart item by giving it an actions component, and the action component can be attach and attach to player, and I can select the left right hand. By the way, there's a whole lot of different parts of the body you can attach things to. And just to not have to add a button and everything, let's make a trigger that makes this action happen right away. So on spawn, basically as soon as the item appears when the scene loads, let's select the same sword and tell it to do the attach action, which attaches it to the right hand. So now I should have a sword in my hand. It's probably not going to be perfectly aligned, but we can deal with that later. Oops, sorry. And there we are. I have a sword in my hand.
Awesome, thank you.
By the way, a common problem is that it kind of messes with my player position, and that is because the sword has a collider of its own, but you can turn off the collider, for example. So you can, sorry, no, not the mesh collider. On the GLTF component, I can turn off the colliders of the invisible layer so that both have none, and now the sword doesn't have colliders, so it shouldn't be able to mess with how I move around. There we go. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
definitely possible and not all that hard if you know the steps. So there was another question?
Nice. Yes, multi-NFT in-world is saying that your volume is very low for him,
sorry.
and it's hard to understand you.
I'll get closer to the mic.
Okay, and I see Ellen Holwick is asking in the voice, in the chat here on Discord, I would like to re-emphasize the importance of having the video screen and streaming tools working as well as possible. Would it make sense to have an office hour meeting specifically about the video screen and streaming functions? The optimal use and setup could be discussed, and problems users are having could be addressed. Just a thought.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff we can dive into that, from encoding to video screen size to different options of how to do the streaming. It could be a good topic. I'll write it down. Thanks. And I absolutely agree that it should be a top priority. If there's still issues, which apparently there still are, we need to hunt them down and figure out where when they're happening and how to fix them. Anything else? Any other questions that are worth jumping into? Otherwise, I'm gonna try with this just a little bit more because I feel like I'm just there. But if I don't get to figure it out this soon, I will later, share the working repo when I figure it out, and I'll let you know. Because I'm sure I'm not so far away. Just a matter of trying out a bunch of things. So.
Okay, we have Mela Tiger right now in Word. Should I read his question?
Please.
He's saying, I would love to see a real-time FFT audio to array feature to make the music control objects.
I would love that too. It's not all that easy. It's something that has come up a bunch of times. Like the only alternative that exists today to that is to potentially process the audio in an external server, and this external server could be having a WebSockets connection to the scene and sending that data as as the parameters already. That should be doable. I can't guarantee that the latency wouldn't maybe have an offset from the music, so that needs testing. But yeah, it's something that has come up before, and like probably we should have it here. I'm not entirely sure if we do. Probably don't. So yeah, let's put it down on paper. How large do we think this is in terms of impact? Like on one hand, it's probably not something that everyone's going to use, but on the other hand, it could be something that can really accentuate some of the most most interesting things that you can do in Decentraland, which is that get together and listen to music. So I would say let's put it in high. It's a FTT, was it? Ah, damn, now I can't remember. FFT, yeah, yes, FFT is Fourier Fast Transform. So yeah, I'll complete this later, but that definitely it would be a really nice thing to see, and it opens the doors for quite a bunch of fun animations you can do. So MetaTiger I see says that you've written an application that they can do that, but I guess this works like in a separate server that, like, would it be possible to hook that up to the Decentraland in some way? Back in the day, I have also done a bunch of like experiments with FFT. Like I've done a bunch of things with audio signal processing, both with pure data, MaxMSP, Usein at one time. It's a whole world to dive into, and can be a lot of fun. About voice chat, by the way, one thing we decided, like from the product side, is to not have open voice chat everywhere in all the scenes, but rather have this as a feature that can be either added to a scene or through to a community. So you can chat with the people from the community you belong to, not necessarily with everyone around you, unless perhaps we also want to have the feature where a scene can designate a voice chat area where people can chat with each other. But yeah, I agree that having voice chat in general in the open space is not necessarily, something so desirable, at least like in the web client. Wasn't always something that was welcome. So like we need to like provide context for these things for it to really work. Yeah, I think we're extending ourselves a bit too much. I am not gonna end up figuring out this example. Apologies for that, but I will be sharing the working example when I do figure it out, which I hope won't take me all that much more. But you never know. And I don't want to share my frustrations with you because the world is already filled with too much frustration to be sharing those. I'm sure it's going to take me a bunch of iterations till I finally figure it out. That's going to be something really stupid. I know it. Anyway, anything else that anyone wants to bring up?
Nico, sorry, I missed before. Did the wearables displaying the wearables?
Mm-hmm.
Did you say do L1 wearables?
So it is possible to display L1 wearables, yes, but the URN format would be different in that case. It wouldn't be like, it would start with a few parameters like looking different from the ones I pasted there. But it's definitely possible to display any wearable, be it L1, L2, or even also the default ones from avatars.
Thank you.
What I will do, and I'm taking a note about this, I'm going to document better how to figure out the proper URN to a wearable, because as the process I know involves quite a bit of guessing, and I'm sure there has to be a better way. There has to. But by the way, sorry, in some cases there is a better way, and that is when you yourself create a wearable. So if you have wearables that you've created yourself, like I have some some test ones that I've messed around with, not necessarily nothing that I published ever, but where is this? Sorry, in collections. So for example, I have this here, which never went out. If I look, see details. No, well, yeah, of course, but this was never really published, so it doesn't have a URN. If I had published this, I would see a URN somewhere here in this UI. So if you are a wearable creator, you can actually find your wearables and their URNs around here. But in case you want to display someone else's wearables, then you will have to play a guessing game for figuring out the URN for the wearable, and that is what I need to figure out. I'm sure there has to be a better way. So yeah, I don't want to extend this too much more, but yeah, I think we are at a good time to end this call. So thank you, everyone. Apologies for the things that I couldn't figure out live. I'll try to, have a more prepared set of steps next time. But I hope that you found this useful, and I'm going to make improvements to the documentation and example scenes so that you can actually build these things that I was showing. Great chatting, and see you next time.